What happens when one of the most outspoken progressive voices in America faces off against a Republican lawmaker determined to defend the status quo? What happens when a single question about student loans detonates into a battle over class, power, and the future of an entire generation? Tonight, we break down the explosive clash between Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and a Republican lawmaker that turned a committee hearing into a theater of raw confrontation. This wasn't just politics. This was a collision of values, a dramatic showdown about debt, fairness, and who really gets a bailout in America. And by the end of this video, you'll be asking yourself, who really won this battle? A Capitol Hill committee room. Bright lights, cameras rolling, rows of lawmakers sitting behind polished wooden desks, with aides scurrying in the background. The air is thick not with smoke, but with tension. On one side, Republicans pressing their message that forgiving student loans is reckless, unfair, even immoral. On the other, Democrats framing student debt as a national crisis strangling millions of Americans. But in the middle of this storm sits AOC Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, young, fierce, armed with a sharp mind and a sharper tongue. Across from her, a Republican lawmaker who sees things very differently. To him, student loan forgiveness is irresponsible, a handout that punishes those who worked hard and paid off their debts. The room is set, the players are ready, the face-off begins. The Republican begins with confidence. His argument feels rehearsed, polished, designed to resonate with frustration many Americans feel. He speaks of responsibility, personal choice, and the danger of rewarding people who, in his words, took out loans they knew they couldn't pay back. But then, AOC leans forward. Her voice cuts through the air like a blade, calm, deliberate, but with a rhythm that demands attention. She asks, why is it, sir, that when it's everyday people, students, nurses, working families struggling under crushing debt, you call it irresponsibility, but when it's big corporations, when it's billion-dollar industries begging for tax cuts and bailouts, you call it good business? The room shifts. Eyes dart, reporters scribble furiously. Because here lies the contradiction. For decades, America has forgiven the debts of corporations, subsidized industries, even written blank checks for banks that nearly collapsed the global economy. But when it comes to students, the tone changes, and AOC isn't letting that hypocrisy slide. The Republican fires back. His voice rises, his face tightens. He accuses her of emotional theatrics, insisting that taxpayers shouldn't bail out degrees in gender studies. Gasps ripple across the room. The jab was sharp, meant to demean, to reduce the conversation to stereotypes. But AOC doesn't flinch. She leans in closer, her voice sharpens. Sir, this isn't about gender studies. This is about doctors. This is about teachers. This is about engineers who are shackled before they even begin their careers. And let me ask you, when you approved billions in pandemic bailouts for corporations that laid off workers anyway, where was your outrage then? Where was your lecture on personal responsibility when Wall Street got a rescue package after gambling the economy into ruin? Silence. The Republican shifts in his chair. Papers shuffle nervously. The contrast is exposed, raw and undeniable. AOC words hang in the air like thunder after a lightning strike. This wasn't just a rebuttal. This was a dismantling. Now, step back. Why did this moment hit so hard? Because it revealed a truth about American politics that resonates far beyond Washington. For years, the narrative has been simple. If you're poor, if you're young, if you're struggling, you're told to be responsible. But if you're powerful, if you're wealthy, if your lobbyists walk the halls of Congress, you're given safety nets, subsidies, and second chances. AOC cracked that facade wide open, and it wasn't just her words. It was the symbolism, a young woman of color representing a generation buried in debt, staring down a Republican establishment figure who still believes in the old playbook. This was more than a hearing. This was a clash of eras. Think about history. When farmers were drowning in debt in the 1930s, the government stepped in with New Deal protections. When banks collapsed in 2008, the government rushed to stabilize them. And yet today, when young people cry out for relief from $1 trillion student loan crisis, the debate isn't about helping them. It's about whether they deserve help at all. The economics of student debt explain how student loans ballooned past $7 trillion, why interest rates are higher than mortgages, and how this debt delays marriage, homeownership, and even retirement savings. The political divide: Republicans frame forgiveness as unfair to those who already paid. Democrats argue that education is a public good. Show clips of other lawmakers: Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren making their cases. The human stories bring in dramatic retellings of students. A nurse in her 30s paying €1.00 a month, but seeing her balance grow. A teacher in Texas working 2 side jobs to stay afloat. A first-generation college student watching her parents co-sign loans that could bankrupt them. Ask, is this the American dream, or a trap? Global comparison shift lens outward. Countries like Germany, France, Norway, where higher education is free or nearly free. Contrast with the U.S., where debt follows graduates for decades. Pose the question, why does the wealthiest nation in history treat education like a luxury instead of a right? The corporate hypocrisy bring in examples of debt forgiven for airlines, banks, and even members of Congress who received Paycheck Protection Program, PPP loans, some of whom later attacked student debt relief. Show the receipts, build tension with dramatic narration. They cashed their checks, they wrote off their loans, and then they told you to pay yours. And so, the hearing ended, but the questions remain. Who should get a second chance in America? Should it be the banks, the billionaires, the corporations, or should it be the millions of students who dared to believe that education was worth the cost? AOC face off with that Republican lawmaker wasn't just a moment. It was a mirror, a reflection of a country divided not just by party, but by who we choose to forgive and who we condemn. So now, I ask you, was this a turning point or just another clash in an endless war over student debt? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you felt this breakdown gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and share this with someone still carrying the weight of student loans. Because in the end, this isn't just politics. This is about power. This is about justice. This is about us.